Hello and welcome to today's lesson. My name is Joe and I'm your British English teacher who specialises in pronunciation. And today's lesson is a bit of a special one. Do something a little bit different to what I usually do. A bit of a long form. We're going to test out your pronunciation. So how good is your British English pronunciation? Well, we're going to find out today. Now, this is a lesson that can be good for any level of English, whether you're a beginner or advanced. You can be quite surprised some advanced learners of English still make some mispronunciations because British English pronunciation is very tricky. So let's test out your pronunciation, but let's also learn a lot of things along the way, like how we pronounce certain words, and a lot of these are very common words we're going to look at, and also how we can use IPA symbols to help us know how to say a word correctly. So let's get to the test. This game is called Odd One Out. So odd being the one that's a little bit different. So we're going to work along in lines. So this is the first line. So we have these three words. They all look very similar spellings. Now the underline gives us a little bit of a clue of what to focus on. What is different about these words? So say these words to yourself in your mind, and what is different about this letter S? It might not be so obvious to many people, but there is a slight difference here. So the letter S can be pronounced in two different ways, which we can see here. So I'm going to say these words. Let's see if you can hear the difference. Goose, loose, choose. Goose, loose, choose. What's the difference here? Okay, well done if you got it. This one is the odd one out. Why is it the odd one out? Well, in this case, the S is actually pronounced like a Z. Z. Choose, choose, choose. But if you see here for these other two words, it's pronounced as an S. Loose, goose. And you know, the difference between these two letters is very subtle. The mouth position, the tongue is exactly the same for the S or the Z. The only difference is vibration, what we call voiced sounds. So the Z here, we use our voice box to create some vibration to make the Z sound, the Z sound. So goose, loose, choose. So this is the odd one out. And let me show you with the IPA just so you can see what I mean. And there we go. So we have goose with an S. They all have this long vowel, this ooh, rounding the lips, putting the tongue back, ooh sound. Goose, loose, choose. Then we have a Z there. So that is the odd one out. So what about this next row of words? They all look very, very similar. And you can see the underline is the O-S-E, and it's more about a vowel sound difference. So say these words to yourself and see if you can work out which is the odd one out. So hopefully you've worked it out. Okay, let's see. I'm going to say these words and let's see if you can tell me which is the odd one out. Nose, rose, lose. Nose, rose, lose. So which one was it? Let's listen to them. N-O's, O, O. R-O's, O, O. So both of them, these O's, they have it's the diphthong, which is quite often how the O is pronounced, like you see in something like N-O. It's O, no, no. Or even in my name, J-O, Joe, Joe. So that way it's actually spelled with an O-E. So nose, rose, lose. So this is ooze, just like we see the symbols here. So it's a very different vowel sound here. So nose, rose, lose. If you wonder what lose means, it just means if you can't find something, like where's my phone, you know, you lose your phone. So let's have a look at the IPA so that we can see the difference in the pronunciation. So there we go. Nose, rose, lose. lose. You can see has the long vowel sound, the oo sound, which you need to really round the lips for this sound. Oo. Lose, lose, lose. So let's move on to the next one. So this is the famous ED pronunciation. Now, these could be simple past verb forms, something you did in the past, you're not doing anymore. Or these could also be adjectives as well. I think for all of these, yeah, they're all verbs here. Now, there's 3 different ways to pronounce the ED, and actually, it's never pronounced ED. It's never pronounced ed. So, do you know the 3 ways to pronounce these ED verbs? Well, let's find out. Let's see if you can say these to yourself. Let's see if you can tell me which is the odd one out. Okay, so have you worked it out? Okay, let's listen in. So I'm going to pronounce them. And unfortunately with the ED, it's actually usually the reduced part of the word. It's not a stressed syllable, so it's not very loud. So I'm going to say it naturally. Then afterwards, I'm going to try and exaggerate the sound, emphasize the sound at the end so you can hear that difference. So played, stopped, liked. Played, stopped, liked. What was the difference? Now I'll exaggerate it. Played, played, stopped. Stopped, liked, liked. Could you hear the difference? Well, let's have a look at the IPA. It's really obvious with the IPA. So, here we have played, stopped, liked. So, the odd one out is going to be played, and it's just because it has the D sound. So these ED pronunciations, 3 different ways to pronounce them. And let me show you the rules. I don't know how much this will help you, but it's a good reference. We have voiced sounds and unvoiced sounds, and this is really important in English. We looked at the S and the Z before. So the S is an unvoiced sound. We don't use our voice box, and the Z is a voice sound. We use our voice box. And that's kind of what's happening here. So we have some sounds where they just come from the lips, some sounds we make vibration. So here, play, a, actually ends in a vowel sound, and all vowels have vibration, all voiced sounds. So we want to use a voiced sound at the end. And guess what? The D is a voiced sound. The. You put your hand here, you can feel. So I shouldn't put it over the microphone. If I put my hand here, you can feel the vibration. Play, the. Whereas stop, it ends in a P sound. Stop, p, which comes from the lips. There's no vibration. So we want to use another unvoiced sound, which is the T, the T. In fact, the T and the D, same mouth position, just one is voiced, the D, and one is not voiced, the T. So this becomes stopped. And of course, we never double consonants in English. That's just a spelling feature, something that you get the original word S-T-O-P. If we're going to add something to the end of it, whether it's an ing or an ed or something else, we need to double the consonant because it ends in consonant, vowel, consonant. So we would double the consonant. But we don't pronounce the extra consonant. It's just for spelling. So that ends in a T, stopped. And the same for like. What does this word usually end in? Well, there's an E there, but it's a silent E. So it's the sound that it ends in. It's a K, the K sound. And the K doesn't have vibration. So we can use the T, liked. Played, stopped, liked. There's one other way to pronounce ED verb endings. And this is when you have a word that ends in a T or a D. So let's say want or decide. Again, the decide has an E at the end, but that's not the sound that it ends on. It ends on a D sound, the D sound. And of course, want ends on a T sound. Maybe you've seen a pattern here. So when we add an ED here, we actually do create an extra syllable, unlike the other examples. But the actual the way that we pronounce it is more like this, id, id. So it's not ed, it's id. So we've got the I, notice my lips hardly move, I, tongue forward in the mouth, id, id, id. Wanted, decided, wanted, decided. Played, stopped, liked, wanted, decided. So there you have it. That's the 3 different ways to pronounce these ed verb endings, which sometimes can be adjectives as well. So let's move on. So we have these 3 words here. We have the TH sound. Now, did you know there's 2 different ways to make the TH sound? And what are the difference? Well, it's voiced and unvoiced, of course. So one has vibration, one doesn't have vibration. So say these words to yourself and let's see if you can work out which is the odd one out. So have you worked it out yet? Which is the odd one out here? Well, let's go through them. Father, author, northern, father, author, northern. Now, can you hear the difference? The odd one out actually doesn't have vibration. And the odd one out here is author, author, author. With these, northern, northern, father. You can hear vibration. Father, northern, author. But it's a very subtle difference, very, very small. But let's look on the IPA. This might, oh, gone right over on the page. So you can see here we have father. So that's our TH sound there. That's the one with vibration. As you can see here, it's the same one. So we call this the voiced TH sound. And this one is without vibration. And then we have vibration over here. So who knew? 2 different ways to say the TH. It's hard enough as it is, but now you have to say it either with vibration or without vibration. But the difference is very, very subtle. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. What's more important is that you say a TH sound instead of saying like a T or a D, as often people do. Or sometimes, like especially Londoners, like where I come from, they use a V or an F. We call this TH fronting, which can be good to use sometimes in certain situations. So let's get back to these words. Now, I like this one. This is an interesting one. Look very, very similar, but one really is very different here. So which one do you think is different for this row of words? Okay, have you got it? So often when I show students these 3 words, what they do is they say this, and this is incorrect. Paid, made, said. Paid, made, said. Because they're just following that pronunciation. But actually it's not correct. It is actually paid, made, said, said, said. Was it obvious which was the odd one out? Yeah. Said. So these all have the same diphthong. So paid. So it's the A diphthong, just like the letter A, but it's a diphthong is a double vowel. So you really have to move the mouth. Paid, made, said, said. Just a regular short vowel, as we can see. As we can see here. Paid, so this is our diphthong here. Paid, made, said, said. It's quite different, huh? Paid, made, said. So, of course, this is our odd one out. So, we've got a few more to do yet. Hopefully, you're doing very well on your pronunciation test, or at least you're learning something along the way. So, 3 very common words. Again, all these are quite common words, but one of them is the odd one out. So, say these words in your mind or out loud and see if you can work it out. Okay, have you worked it out? It's not an easy one, this one. We really have to isolate the sound. And actually what I find is getting rid of that first consonant letter and just concentrating on the vowel sound, which has the T at the end, but they all have the T at the end here, is a really good way to hear the difference. So let me say these words. Put, but, hut. put, but, hut. Put, but, hut. So, did you work it out? Well, let's break it down. So we have put, ut, but, ut, hut, ut. Did you work it out? It's put, ut. As I was showing the IPA. The IPA never lies. Oh, didn't mean to do that. There we go. Put, different vowel sounds. But, hut, ut. So it's the sound we have here. We're rounding the lips a little bit. Put. So, this is our odd one out. Okay, moving on. These three very similar words. Let's see if you can work out which is the odd one out here. Okay, so have you worked it out? Well, let's go through them. None, done, gone. None, done, gone. None, done, gone. I think it should be an obvious one, this one. And it's this one that is the odd one out. None, un, done, gone, on. So it's this vowel sound really here. Remember, the E at the end of the word is almost always silent. Sometimes it affects the vowel before. So it's just that O we're looking at, and as you can see, they are quite different here. So none, yep, done, gone, on. Just take that O and N. It's the on. Here it's the un. So yeah, this is the different one. Gone, none, done, gone. Good. Right, now double O. How is double O pronounced in English? Now, this is one of those combinations that's changed a lot, I think, over the years. I think it was always pronounced as a long vowel, but now it's either pronounced as a short vowel or a long vowel. It depends. So let's find out which is the odd one out here. And it's interesting because they all look very, very similar, especially these two. Look at the difference. F-double-O, the only difference is a D or a T, which are very similar sounds. Same mouth position, the only difference with the D is voice. The, T, very similar. So, have you worked it out? Well, I'm going to say them. Let's see if you can work out which is the odd one out. And actually, the odd one here is a long vowel instead of a short vowel. So we have foot, book, food. Foot, book, food. Foot, book, food. Yep, that's it. This is the odd one out. So even though these two words are look very similar, the double O is very different. Here it's short. Foot, ut. Like here, book, ut. Food, oo. And we saw this sound before. It's this sound up here again. This oos, loose, choose. As I will show you now. There you go. So that's a long vowel sound. It's that ooh. Rounding the lips, pushing them out a little bit. Tongue comes back a bit. Ooh, ooh. Food, food. Book, foot. Much shorter. So be careful with these double O's. It could be that long vowel or it could be that short vowel. Sometimes the only way you know is by listening or checking the IPA. So we've just got 3 more rows to do. Hopefully you're doing really well and you've got lots of points so far and you have perfect British English pronunciation. Let's try out this next one. So this is the OW, and here the W acts as a vowel. It's not acting as a consonant sound. So say these out to yourself and which one is the odd one out. Okay, so have you worked it out? Let's go through them. Slow, now, cow. slow now cow. Slow now cow. So which was it? They are very, very similar. So oh. We heard this sound before, didn't we? This O sound. Ow, now. This is the ow. So we have O, ow, and k, cow, ow, now, cow. They're the same. It's the slow that is different. So let's have a look at the IPA. So you can see our vowel sounds are all diphthongs here. So these are our O's, like in my name, Joe, or is it a negative? No. But here it's a bit different. It's slow. Sorry, no, let me go back a little bit. That was completely wrong. So I meant this one is the O, slow, and these are the ow. A bit like you hurt your head or something. Ow. Now, cow. Slow, now, cow. So slow, as you can see here, is the odd one out. Good. Just 2 more to go. Let's see how you're doing. And by the way, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel, maybe liking this video. It really helps me a lot. And it means that more people will see these lessons and hopefully benefit and improve their pronunciation. Anyway, back to the lesson. So 3 words here. We're all concentrating on that OR, which is almost always, I think, in English, a vowel sound, even though you see that R there. And why is that? Well, I speak British English, and most forms of British English, not all, it's not including Scottish and Irish, and also one particular accent down by Bristol, the West Country accent. When we see a letter R, if it's not followed by a vowel sound, we do not pronounce it in general. Yeah. So this letter R is followed by an N, a K, and a D. These are consonants, so we don't pronounce the letter R here. If it was a word like red, of course, yeah, the R follows after the R is a vowel sound. So red. Of course, we pronounce that, but not here. So it's going to be a vowel sound in replacement of that letter R. So say these words to yourself, and let's see if you can work out which is the odd one out. Okay, have you worked it out? So let's go through them. Word, work, worn, worn. Word, work, worn. So the first one, It's a nice long vowel sound, which we make. It's quite an easy one to make, actually. It's a bit like the schwa, but we drop the jaw a lot more. The tongue just stays in the center of the mouth, lips are relaxed, and just word. And this word is a really commonly mispronounced word. So we need to be a bit careful here. So it's work, the same sound that you hear here. So it's the sound, work. Sometimes people see this OR and they think it's the OR sound, another long vowel, which often is spelt as an OR, but here it's just not. So be careful. Work. Here, worn. So this is that OR sound that we talked about. Sometimes people think it's the sound here. So we make that sound by really rounding the lips, pushing them right out and tongue back. Or, worn. So this one is the odd one out. There you go. We have the and the or. And especially with these long vowels, we know long vowels because they have these 2 dots next to them. With these long vowels, there's 5 long vowels, and the real trick to make these sounds is what you do with the mouth, how much you open the jaw, what you do with the lips. Are they relaxed? Are they spread? Are they rounded, for instance? And also where you place your tongue in your mouth, center, back, forwards, what have you. So with this one, the it's about dropping the jaw. With this one, the or, it's about rounding the lips, tongue back, and lips forwards. Or, worn. So word, work, worn. So this is our odd one out. Okay, guys, finally, the last one. So let's see how you do. 3 words here, concentrating on the beginning of the words. See, say them to yourselves, see if you can work out which is the odd one out. Okay, so how are you doing? Have you worked it out? Let's have a listen to how we say them. Watch, wall, was, watch, wall, was. It's a tricky one. So let's listen. Watch, watch, wall, was, us. Tricky one. Let's have a look at the IPA. Oh, it's a double IPA. Let's get rid of all those. Don't need so many. Now, what do we see here? So we recognise there's a long vowel here. I don't realise it, but this A, it's actually technically the AL maybe, is pronounced or, as we saw earlier here, like with worn, so rounded lips. So wool, and here it just has this short vowel sound, was, and here the same short vowel sound, watch, wool, was. So this is our odd one out. So, how did you do? Let's stop the share. Hope you did really well. If you didn't do that well on the pronunciation on guessing what was the odd one out, don't worry. Hopefully you just learned something along the way, and you learned maybe how to use some of these IPA symbols to learn how to pronounce some of these words. You don't have to know all of the symbols. Sometimes it's kind of obvious, like a 2 dot, you know, it's a long vowel. And sometimes the sounds just look like the letters. It's not so difficult. But where do you get this IPA? Well, let me show you very quickly now where to get the IPA. And you should be able to get this from any good online learner's dictionary. I prefer to use Cambridge Dictionary. Oxford is pretty good as well. Cambridge is just my personal favourite. It's just the one that I usually use. So let me share the screen and show you how we do this. So open up Cambridge Learner's Dictionary. So let's say we're going to look up a new word. Let's look up wool. We're just looking at it just now. That's a kind of a weird word, strange pronunciation. So we type it in, and then we get this information. So we've got the word. We know what type of word it is. It's a noun. Now we have UK pronunciation.
Cool.
And we have US pronunciation.
Wow.
I don't know if you've really heard that, but it was playing the audio, which I'm recording here, so it's not recording on the computer. So you can listen to the audio, and that's really important to listen to these sounds so you can work out how to pronounce them. But I would advise always try to listen to it maybe 5 times at least before you attempt to pronounce it, because sometimes our ears can play tricks on us. We think we hear the sound, but we might not hear everything. Now, if you're still not sure how to pronounce it, then we can look at the IPA, and you can see it's very small here, but that is our IPA. And we can see there's a difference. UK uses the long vowel or, whereas the US uses the long vowel ah. Really drop the jaw. So don't laugh at my American attempt at an accent, but let me try. So theirs would be wow. It's really different to our wool. But anyway, this is where you'll get your IPA, and you can listen, of course, to the audio, and then you get all your definitions, which is always good. So this is the way to find out how exactly to pronounce a word. Okay, I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing and liking this video. And maybe I would suggest watching this video, because it's a really good video on pronunciation, which will really help you to improve your British English pronunciation and sound like an expert.